All right, so welcome everyone to this English at Work alumni panel. These panels are something that we've done for the last, oh gosh, at least 5 years. In the English department, we try to do at least one a year, preferably two, but with the world the way it is right now, I feel like we did a great job pulling together one. And so I really want to thank our three panelists, who I'll introduce in a moment, for being willing to participate and be here with us this evening. Just so you know, uh, we're going to have about 40 to 45 minutes where I will be asking our panelists questions, and then the last 15 to 20 minutes we'll open it up for questions from the audience, and so I hope you will have questions for them. And let's see, there was one other thing I was going to say, but it slips my mind right now, and I didn't note it on my notes, unfortunately, so it couldn't have been important. As my mother used to say, if you can't remember it, it must not have been important. So I'll start then by introducing our three panelists. First of all is Kelly Galligan. Kelly received her BA in English from Eastern in 2016, and shortly after her graduation, she began her career as a marketing coordinator for a mid-sized, multidisciplined civil engineering and architecture firm. She quickly developed a passion for contributing to business opportunities and translating industry jargon into plain English. Kelly entered the healthcare industry in 2018 as a proposal writer with Aetna, a CVS health company. In this role, she supports the growth and retention of medical membership by developing customer-focused, strategically oriented proposals. At the same time, Kelly continued her studies at Eastern by enrolling in the Organizational Management Graduate Program. She earned her Master of Science in May 2020. Next, Marcia Lee graduated in 2013 with a bachelor's degree in English and a minor in writing. She transitioned directly into the workforce and has occupied several roles under the financial umbrella. She worked with Sencap Federal Credit Union in Hartford for 2.5 years, first as branch manager and then as marketing manager. In these roles, Marcia oscillated between operations, business development, new talent acquisition, retail banking, and community outreach. The most rewarding opportunity of her career at Sencap came when the CEO granted her the creative freedom to write, develop, and teach their financial literacy program. In 2020, Marcia went on to explore the world of financial technology, or fintech, as core operations platform manager for Radius Bank, now Lending Club Bank, a full spectrum online marketplace bank. In this role, she partners with multiple teams to maintain the functionality and efficiency of the core operating system and manage its day-to-day functions. And lastly, Jessica Link graduated from Eastern in 2014 with a BA in English and a minor in pre-law. After graduating, she spent a year as a preschool teacher before transitioning into the corporate world. In 2016, she was hired by Hitachi Capital America Corp as a credit application specialist in the transportation finance division. In 2018, she was promoted to the role of documentation specialist, responsible for creating and reviewing contracts for funding. During her time at Hitachi Capital, Jessica was a founding member of the company's Women's Networking Group. In March of 2021, she was hired as a contracts administrator by North Mill Equipment Finance, LLC. So please join me in welcoming our three panelists. All right, so we'll get started with the Q&A. So first of all, all three of you have wound up in careers that most people would not immediately envision for English majors. People have kind of very limited ideas about what English majors wind up doing after graduation. It's like teaching or writing or barista. And that's not true. And one of the reasons that I asked you three to come here is to talk about that. So to start us off, I'd like each of you to describe your path since graduation from Eastern. What were the steps? I described it a bit in your bio, but if you could elaborate, what were the steps that got you from graduation day to where you are now? And what were the key moments that kind of wound up directing you toward where you are now? And we'll go in alphabetical order, starting with Kelly. Kelly.
Hi, thank you for the introduction, Professor. When I left Eastern in 2016, I started working at a civil engineering firm as a receptionist. So, in addition to my responsibilities, I began assisting project managers with writing, editing, and formatting proposals for new business. At times, the project managers wanted to reference a project that had no description or biography of a new team member, so we didn't have much for our proposals. So this is when I stepped in to write those summaries, and sometimes taking a 30-page project description and condensing it into a single page without sacrificing the value of that project. So over the next 2 years, I was given more opportunities to support other business lines and sharing best practices. And this experience allowed me to move into my current role where I respond to proposals for medical insurance.
Great, thank you. So in some ways, you kind of made your own opportunity there by noticing a need and filling it, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, so Marcia.
Sorry, as I unmute myself. Hi, everyone. Hi, folks. Thank you for the introduction. So I kind of began a little bit different than most. So my career actually took off in the retail banking industry. So working under KeyBank, which is one of the largest national banks, on the retail segment in the front line. Um, that kind of drove me to explore other options. With that type of setting, with a retail banking setting, it's often very, very cutthroat. It's like, okay, you either make your metrics, you make your goals, or you're out the door. And that's not necessarily something I wanted to continue doing, but it was definitely something that helped me get my foot in the door. So SunCap Federal Credit Union actually was my stepping stone. They reached out to me kind of out of the blue. I'm not actually quite sure where they got my resume from, but they got it. I'm kind of wondering if it was between LinkedIn and Indeed, but somehow they had my resume on file, and they reached out to me with a wonderful opportunity to come to the credit union as a bank manager, as a branch manager. And eventually they gave me the opportunity to write the financial literacy curriculum for the credit union. So originally going in, the idea was to kind of just clean up the branch and kind of develop some of the staff there. That role quickly transitioned once the staff was fully developed, and there was a supervisor that was trained for the location and to be more on the road, teaching my financial literacy curriculum, continuing to work on the financial literacy curriculum. We called it Feet on the Streets. So I was literally traveling about 60% of the time. I then transitioned into the marketing role where I was outside of the branches. So I kind of moved to the back end of things, working on our social media platforms, any community outreach programs we had going on. I would make a debut appearance there, and still on the side teaching my financial literacy curriculum. I did put myself out there on LinkedIn when COVID-19 happened. I was kind of getting concerned because as a small credit union in the city of Hartford, there wasn't much money to kind of play around with. The city of Hartford, the average salary is about $40,000. So we didn't have much deposits. And as COVID continued to affect the community, we were losing money at a rapid pace. So despite our efforts, we were losing money. I ultimately put myself out there on LinkedIn and accepted a position with the company I'm with today, and that is Radius, now Lending Club Bank, as their core operations platform manager, and kind of a 360 there, but I manage the day-to-day operations with the core processing system and It's been great. I have no complaints. That's it.
Okay, great. I'm going to want to follow up with you later about the role that LinkedIn has played in your career, but we'll get to that later. I find that really interesting. Okay, and so speaking of links, next we'll talk to Jessica. Jessica, your answer to that question.
Sure. So when I graduated in December. So I was like a semester ahead of the rest of my class, and I was deciding about applying to grad school and, getting responses back on that. And I needed a part-time job. So I started substitute teaching at my younger brother and sister's school. And I was a long-term substitute for middle school class when they offered me a full-time teaching position in their preschool the following year. So I decided to take that opportunity, and through there, I was obviously introduced to a new network of people. So through that, one of the parents had approached me and basically asked if I wanted a job at the finance company that he worked for. So that was pretty great. And that's how I ended up moving from preschool to working in finance, which was like the last thing that I ever thought that I would do. I started at Hitachi in really like a data entry role. And I worked on a lot of different projects there. I basically just took whatever opportunity they would give me. So if they wanted somebody to work on compliance, I was ready to work on compliance. If they wanted somebody to work on process improvement, I was going to work on process improvement. If they wanted, or if I noticed that there was never a handbook for my department, I was going to write the handbook. So I worked on a lot of different projects. I also helped found the women's networking group at Hitachi, which was a really exciting thing that we did. And then I started looking for, I got a promotion into our documentation and funding group. And I was there for about a year or two, working as a contracts administrator. So a lot of reviewing information, generating contracts, and then reviewing those contracts when they come back in. And then I also had somebody reach out to me through LinkedIn about the job that I started just a month ago at another equipment finance company, North Mill. So that's where I'm at now.
Okay, great. Thanks to all three of you. So LinkedIn was important for you too. And so, yeah, I'm going to make a pitch for LinkedIn at the end of this to our current students for a number of reasons. But anyway, so now that we've gotten a sense of your path to your current work, tell us a little bit more about your current job. What are your primary responsibilities? You kind of touched on that already, but can you give us more sense of what you do in a typical day? What's involved in your job? And we'll start this time with Marcia.
Sure. So I work as part of Lending Club Bank's operational excellence team. So my day-to-day looks a little bit different from most, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic. Going forward, my day is expected to change too much. Lending Club, it's defined as a forward-thinking fintech company. So forward-thinking financial technology company. There wasn't much they had to change in lieu of the pandemic. A lot of people were already acclimated to their work from home environment long before the pandemic. So adjustments, unlike many other institutions, which I've come to realize, they were relatively minor. My day-to-day is spent communicating in a virtual vortex with internal partners, our finance department, project management, our external partners and clients, our API clients. API stands for Application Programming Interface Clients. So essentially they use Lending Club Bank as a conduit to sell their products or services. I work with these clients to solve problems, improve functionality, and automate processes that are currently man provided. I manage the bank's core, the system that makes the bank function and do. That would be me. The system that every other subsystem speaks to for the bank, it always ties back to our core. I sit on numerous meetings every day across the banking platform, adding just our deposit operations and general knowledge to the conversations. The latter part of my days are spent dropping and checking some what's called alt-ins or alternate inputs from multiple business partners across the board. Alt-ins are just like an automated way to complete a process that would otherwise take a little bit more time if done by, a employee of the credit union manually, or excuse me, the bank manually. So once the alt-ins are dropped, I usually spend some time managing them, reviewing them, correcting any errors that may have come from the file dropping, and working with the line of business to fix the error. So essentially the line of business feeds me an alt-in. I feed it to the core processing system. It gives me an output report. I review it, make sure there's no errors. If there is errors, I work with the line of business to correct them. And at the end of the day, any outages that these alt-ins create, they go into general ledgers or GL accounts. And I have to make sure those balance for the operational department at the end of the day. So a lot going on. I've pulled in a lot of different directions, but it's always exciting, always fun. There's some meetings I sit on that absolutely make perfect sense to me and I'm completely involved. And there's some meetings that I'm sitting on and I'm like, do I really have to be involved in that? And I'm probably doing something on the side, but always a good time. And I guess that's it for me.
All right, great, thank you. And so then, Jessica, tell us more about your day-to-day.
So I've only been at North Mill for about a month, so my day-to-day is going to sound pretty dry right now. But as of right now, the majority of my day is still kind of getting used to a new system and new processes. But the basis of what I do is pretty similar for my old job as well. So it's a lot of reviewing information. What happens first is we get the initial information to generate the contracts. So verifying that everything in our system matches everything on their documentation. In my current role, we could be financing like a heavy duty truck or a piece of construction equipment, or we could be financing like a cash out loan for like a Subway or like an ice cream place, something like that. Or I think we've done like movie theaters, all kinds of stuff. So reviewing all of the information, verifying that everything's correct. We send out the contracts to the customer using DocuSign, so the customer can kind of sign digitally. And then the majority of my day is working kind of like hand-holding the broker, who is our, that's the company that we'd work with that brings in the lead to us of like the customer that needs the financing. So really hand-holding with the broker, going through every piece of documentation. So like reviewing insurance information, making sure that all of our requirements are there, and then working with the adjacent departments like accounting or different operations groups to get the funds out to either the dealership that's selling the equipment, the customer if it's a cash out loan. That's a lot of just reviewing data and a lot of emailing back and forth with people. So yeah, that is the basis of what I do every day.
So far, it sounds like a lot of communication going on for everybody. So lastly then, Kelly, tell us more about your day-to-day.
Well, I am a proposal writer with Aetna. I am aligned to the business unit that supports the sale of commercial medical products, networks, and programs. Our customers can include national hotel chains and other major companies with memberships of hundreds of thousands sometimes. I usually work more on the smaller ones, so in the tens of thousands. They're still pretty large customers. So I support the sales team by having an expertise of the many programs that we offer. So I can provide a customer specific consultation to the sales team And based on the assumed strategy that we do decide on, I respond to the proposal using some of thousands of standard responses that we have in our database. And there are also many opportunities to craft new responses to those strategic questions, in which case I get to collaborate with the sales team and our subject matter experts. So there's a lot of writing and planning out how we're going to respond the best way that we can.
Okay, great. So for some of our students who are watching this, they might say, well, yeah, that doesn't sound like anything I thought about doing as an English major. And it doesn't necessarily sound like anything I would like or enjoy at all. So I'm interested, what do you like about your current job that you would not have expected? I mean, thinking back to when you were an English major at Eastern, I don't imagine that any of you foresaw yourself doing what you're doing today. Correct me if I'm wrong when I get to you. But now that you're doing what you're doing, what do you like about it that you didn't think, you never would have imagined you would? And so this time we'll start with you, Kelly.
Well, my favorite aspect of my role is being able to respond to those strategic questions. I feel that I have the most flexibility to be creative, because there are most of the questionnaires are standard responses, but we do have some responses that have multiple strategic questions. And in those cases, again, like I had mentioned, I get to reach out and work directly with our sales team and other business partners. So I enjoyed that I get to be creative and have a direct connection to what could possibly be a winning sale. The most challenging aspect of this is a character or word limit. I'm sure our our current students remember those assignments that are capped at 5,000 words, but some of the responses that I have are capped at 200 words or 500 words. So there really isn't much room to tell the customer or the consultant all about our programs. So it's just important to know how to prioritize what we say and just craft it in a way that piques their interest.
Great. Okay, so let's see. Oh, I think I should have started with Jessica on that question, but that's okay. So Jessica, I'll go to you and then Marcia.
Sure. So I think the first thing that comes to mind is always that my job lends itself to some instant gratification, and that I get to, see a request come in, process it, see the funds go out, and people are always happy when they're getting paid. So once people get paid, they're really happy, and that's great. Um, but I think one of the things that I like most about working for a finance company is that they're always, I mean, everybody everywhere is always looking to improve, but particularly in the companies I've worked for. And I love doing process improvement projects. Um, so my favorite part of my day is looking at what I'm doing and trying to figure out if there's a way I can do it better, um, or faster, or if I can cut out some kind of middleman. That's hands down my favorite part of my job.
All right, so it's kind of, again, a creative part of your job that you enjoy, it seems like, yeah. And Marcia.
Yeah, so when I have to agree with Jessica, the creative part is definitely my favorite part, being able to have the creative freedom to make decisions, whether it be with the financial literacy program or in my current role, making decisions as far as operationally, how do we create a account for a specific client or a specific partner that encompasses everything that they're looking for their company. I definitely think that's one of the greatest advantages and one of the greatest takeaways from the position I'm in. I mean, it doesn't hurt to work from home. That's a really awesome opportunity. Like I love it. Sometimes I sit outside, so it gives me a better work-life balance. Coming out of college, out of Eastern, I didn't really think I wanted to work from home or do anything outside the lines of going to an office and sitting in a cubicle, because that's what I felt like I should be doing. But actually being out in the in the environment, uh, I kind of changed my mind. I do appreciate a nice work from home environment where there's better work-life balance, and according to some statistics, it is we're apparently more productive when we work from home. So that's always good. The last part of it will be the mathematical part of it. So I've never been a math person. Not a fan of any type of math. I took math for liberal arts. I was confused the entire time. In the interest of full disclosure, I didn't know what was going on. So I did not think that I would like to do anything surrounding math. But each day I have to uncover that string or line of data that didn't run it correctly or that didn't balance, and figure out how to make it balance. So uh, I think because it's under the problem solving blanket, I guess it makes it better for me or easier for me to comprehend. So I definitely like trying to sift through all that hoopla and balance at the end of the day. It's kind of like a challenge that I enjoy every day, even though it involves debits and credits. And sometimes I'm like, who's it, what's it, what's it? It always works out at the end of the day, and then I feel accomplished. So it's a greater sense of accomplishment, and it's definitely, it's a challenge as well. So I definitely welcome the challenge, and it kind of opens the door for me to be more well-rounded for the future if and when I do decide to explore other opportunities.
Definitely. Great. Thank you. I love what you said about the math, because, you know, we don't know what we're going to like until we try it a lot of times. So
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah. Thank you for sharing about that. So I think I'm starting to see this come out in your answers, but I'm going to ask you to be a little bit more explicit about in what ways do you see yourself using what you learned as an English major at Eastern in your work now. And this time I'm going to start with Jessica.
Sure. So I think starting with the obvious, the thing that shocked me most about not just like leaving college, but particularly entering like the corporate world was how many people struggle to write an email or just communicate properly and clearly and concisely. Um, that really kind of blew me away. So definitely using that. Um, and I um, am not communicating concisely right now. Definitely using those skills, but also the ability to balance work. I think every college student deals with the need to balance a lot of different work, but there's something unique to having to read like 5 different books for 5 different English classes and papers and having a different thesis for every class. For me, I really had to utilize that through balancing different projects or just different deals I'm working on, developing like an organization method that works for me and knowing how I work and how I work well and if I work better under pressure or if I'm somebody who needs to have things done, and as far advanced as possible, being able to identify that was really helpful for me.
Great. And so Marcia, what do you say to that one? You're muted,
Wait.
Marcia. Oh, there you go.
Hi, guys. Okay. You think I would be used to this by now? I do this all day. Definitely reading and comprehension. So a decent part of my day is spent researching and trying to comprehend how our core, which the core's name is Miser, so how Miser does the things that it does on a daily basis. So I need to eat, speak, breathe, live Miser. The Miser help booklet is very dense, can be a bit unorganized, and can be a bit abstract at times. So the ability to not only research, but to comprehend my research and then also be able to translate my findings into layman's terms to be able to discuss it with different lines of business that may not have the background knowledge that I do in my department or in on my team has been really vital to my success. Also writing. I mean, the writing minor has been like almost like a secret, oh my gosh, what was that word? A secret sword for me. Being able to take my minor in writing and transition it into creating an entire financial literacy curriculum from scratch, writing games, writing PowerPoint presentations, like it was multidimensional. So it was really exciting to be able to create something from scratch, add to it, change it around. And I definitely can thank an English and writing degree for that.
Excellent. And finally, Kelly, tell us about how you use your English degree.
Sorry, to Jessica's point, effective business communications is a struggle for many professionals. And I was able to jump right in to support project managers with descriptions and writing resumes from scratch. So the English major, it really enables its students to write, to create written conversations on a variety of subjects with a specific audience in mind. And I also believe that it gave me a great appreciation of different perspectives and critical thinking. So in my job at Aetna, it's important to ensure that every response follows a logical structure, because readability helps us put our best foot forward. And I think that the major really gave me that, the ensuring that I adhere to that structure.
Great. So now I'm going to ask you about other things that you did in your time at Eastern as an undergraduate that you think have helped prepare you for your career, for what you've done since leaving Eastern. In addition to your classes and your major and minor, what else about your experience at Eastern do you think has helped you along the way? And Marcia, we'll start with you this time.
Of course. So during my undergrad, I'm sure the requirements are probably similar or the same now. We were required to take public speaking, a public speaking course, and I was so petrified. I was not a public speaker going in, and I didn't know how I was going to get through that class. But I did get through it, and thankfully so. It's helped me tremendously with my confidence, with my articulation in meetings, especially sifting through Zoom meetings. It's helped me to gather my thoughts and be concise and articulate and get to the point rather quickly, which is very important when we are clocked at like 30 to 45-minute meetings tops. I also participated in Dr. Donahue's liberal arts conference. I believe it was a liberal arts conference and like exhibition. I was able to perform some of my poetry pieces that I wrote in his class. And that was another opportunity to be on the forefront and kind of present to a larger group of people. And that kind of set me up, preparation and preparing for that set me up for success walking into the multiple roles I've held over the years. And lastly, just the English courses in general, they've really helped me define my flow of thoughts in constructing emails and other correspondences around the industry. So again, very thankful that I decided to stick with what I love, which is English and writing.
Great. Kelly, what do you have to say about your other experiences at Eastern and how they've helped you? And you're muted, hon. Oh, and I just called you. Sorry.
I'm so sorry. I keep doing that. So I had two minors. I was a history minor and I was also a writing minor. As a history minor, I also spent a lot of time with the history club. I was the treasurer for probably a year. And I enjoyed this experience because I believe that context is critical to our understanding of the world. And more specific to my role, it gives me an appreciation of how Aetna and CVS impacts our members and local communities. So understanding how we got to a certain point or how we can help a community or why a community is facing certain challenges. Also for the writing minor, I remember taking a screenplay writing and a poetry class, and both classes helped me modify the way I wrote, specifically encouraging me to write more clearly and in concise statements, which definitely helps in my current role, where we have to write at a ninth grade level and in very clear and understandable phrasing.
Great, thank you. And let's see, Jessica, we haven't asked you this question yet, right?
So I have a few things. For starters, it's never going to hurt you to take an Excel class, no matter what you do. Even if you don't remember any of it, just being a little bit comfortable with Excel, I wish I paid better attention to my Excel class. So I can't recommend that highly enough. But I did a few internships. I interned through the judicial branch at the Willimantic Adult Probation Office. And I was also I don't know if they call it FYI anymore, but the freshman mentorship program, I participated in that as well. And beyond the obvious like presentation skills, those experiences gave me a lot of confidence, which was really important for me going into like a corporate setting where I really felt like I knew nothing about anything. And I quickly got involved in projects where I would be sitting at the table with like the CEO of Hitachi or like the president of the company, and being able to articulate my thoughts and feel confident about what I was saying. And it kind of gave me the ability to like fake it till you make it. And when you are like sitting at the table, not to kind of show your hand that you might be nervous. So that was something that was really important for me, and I still think is very important.
Great, thank you. So let's see. Oh, we're getting close to 40 minutes, so I'm gonna maybe skip around in my planned questions here to get at some of the most important ones. So with the exception of changing your major, you cannot change your major from English, but with the exception of that, if you could go back in time to your time at Eastern, what would you do differently, knowing what you do now about the career world and the corporate world? Is there anything you would do differently? And we'll start with Kelly this time.
Well, I think I'll caveat, instead of changing a major, I think I would add a major. I would add a second major as a marketing, because a lot of what I do has some marketing elements to it. And I believe that English and marketing could go hand in hand. So while my role ultimately supports sales, there are many elements such as the development of content and having the knowledge of what's coming down the pipeline. Also, I really didn't do any internships, which I do regret. However, it was primarily because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I did, however, I was an intern for a political campaign, which helped me become comfortable with interacting with different types of people and trying to pick out which items might be most appealing to them, and just learning how to communicate, I think. But I would definitely go back and try and explore other internship opportunities and take advantage of the career offices.
Yes, definitely. And Marcia, what would you do differently?
Definitely to Jessica's point, I was reacting, as you could see, so candidly. Yes, take an Excel class. I second that notion. A lot of the Alton creations that are done on the operations level are done through Excel. So all of our string lines of data are created through Excel. And let me tell you, that was one of the hardest things for me to learn. Um, Here I am, 29 years old, and I'm like, all right, where can I find an Excel class? So I definitely agree to Jessica's point that take an Excel class for sure, even if, right, even if you don't understand 3/4 of it, take it. It's definitely it's gonna mean a lot. It's gonna make a difference. Also, I would have definitely, to Kelly's point, I would have definitely applied to an internship or two. I did not because, like Kelly, I did not know where I wanted to go, what direction I wanted to take. My parents made it clear that I was expected to graduate in 4 years, as that's the average time frame. They're very black and white. There really wasn't any gray area. Now that I'm older, they're kind of like, okay. But back then it was like, no, 4 years or else we're not gonna help you anymore. So if you take nothing else from me, take this. Your degree is not time stamped. There's nowhere on your degree that's going to say this took X amount of years to obtain. Take your time, do what you love, do it at your own pace. Everyone's journey is different, and everyone's journey, I feel, is very special. It has ups and downs, it has lefts and rights. But I say it's your time, so enjoy the ride.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. So I'm going to open it up to any of our audience who has questions, and hopefully there will be some. If you do have a question, you can either turn on your camera and wave to let me know you have a question and I'll call on you, or you can do the little raise hand feature in Zoom if you know how to do that. But I really do hope someone will have some questions to ask our panelists today. Phoebe, yay, thank you.
I don't know if this was mentioned, but did you guys have concentrations in your English major?
Good question. Concentrations didn't really start until, in the English major, didn't really start until 2015. So I don't think any of you did you?
No, that was a little after me. I think that was my junior year. But I was interested in the creative writing, and I think there's a business writing one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think no, there isn't.
Yeah.
I definitely would have explored those, but I think the minors I compensated and used that as a concentration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Marcia, you did the writing minor, right? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Phoebe. Jordan.
So this is a question, I guess, kind of directly for Jessica. You said that you did multiple internships. How, what advice would you give to current students for balancing internships on top of like regular school curriculum and regular work as well?
Sure. So I was very fortunate in that I didn't really have any internship placements that wanted to like test the boundaries. The biggest piece of advice that I have there was that I walked into one internship interview and I kind of got the feeling that it was going to be an experience where they were going to expect more than I was going to be able to offer within the bounds of still being a student. So I think it'd have to be some kind of ridiculous internship to be worth that. Going through, I went through my pre-law minor for my judicial branch internship. And I would say going through those avenues and going with an internship that the school has experience with is good in that respect. In terms of your own balance, like love your planner. I planned everything like neurotically. I still plan everything neurotically. Like I have it here and I've been writing notes the whole time about what I'm going to say. So like I said, knowing how you work, I would color code all of my syllabi into my planner. So I would know like if there's a lot of colors this week, it's a busy week. And I would just be upfront with your placement as well, and kind of say, like, if you know there's a crazy week coming up, I would just let them know and set the expectation up front that, your school does have to come first, but you're there to work hard too.
Great question and great answer. Thank you, Jessica. Uh, any other questions? We have plenty of time for more questions. Phoebe has another question. Great.
Do you guys have any advice for someone who would want to do something like about what you guys do, like in the corporate world, but also would want to travel at the same time?
I do have a recommendation. Aetna CVS has a program, an internship program, where you can travel to any of our offices. For example, a former colleague of mine, she's in a different program, but she is a UConn graduate and she was able to do an internship in Tampa, Florida. So that,
Um, I would also reach out to people in the field that you're looking for and just ask them about their job and ask them if they get a lot of opportunity to travel. And you never know, they could be hiring for something entry level when you're looking for something entry level. So, I would just talk to people and network as much as you can.
Marcia, did you have anything to add to that?
Um, I agree with Jessica. I definitely think connections is very important to get you in the door with the right people. I would say, like, for my company specifically, we are a bi-coastal company. So we've got a office in Boston. We have an office in California. Uh, we have an office in, I believe it's Arizona. So we're all over the place. And there's also a multitude of work from home opportunities. So there's a lot of flexibility there. So I would definitely say when you are out and looking for a position and you're in the workforce and even an entry level position, excuse me, interview the company the same way that they interview you. Ask, it's a two-way street. Ask them questions about their work-life balance, their vision, their culture, how they do things. Is there room to grow and advance and possibly relocate? Do they pay for it? Because that's nice. Some places do offer compensation for those types of moves. So definitely ask the questions. Definitely um, stay active on LinkedIn. The same effort that you put on social media, Facebook, on your traditional Instagram, Snapchat, put that same effort into LinkedIn. Create your profile, perfect your craft, update it whenever you get a new position or opportunity, or you're on a new project, a new internship. Definitely remain active on LinkedIn. That's my biggest ask, I would say.
Great. Now, y'all had mentioned either participating in internships or that you wish you had and would recommend them. And then Kelly, you mentioned that an internship program at Aetna. Do you, what about Jessica and Marcia? Are there internship programs with your companies that our students might get involved with?
At my current company, I'm fairly new, so I'm not sure. But if you are curious about equipment finance, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'll find out and let you know. But that said, just because there aren't currently opportunities, I started the internship opportunity at Hitachi. So there's always a possibility.
Great. And Marcia, what about with your company?
I haven't seen too much by ways of internships for my company. I have seen a lot of folks who are still working on, their undergrad or they're in some sort of secondary education, they usually take on a part-time teller role, which is pretty awesome because it is a cashless bank. So it's an online only bank. So you're working from home in your PJs. It's a perfect, work, school, life balance opportunity. As far as my previous employer, SunCap Federal Credit Union, while it is smaller, it's just in the city of Hartford, they do take in about 3 interns a year. And you can kind of oscillate between the lending culture. I don't think they have marketing anymore. The teller and retail banking culture, and they might still be doing collections culture. So there's a lot of different opportunities there as well, for you to explore, and you can reach out to them as well on social media platforms. They are on Facebook, Instagram, and I think it's LinkedIn is the last one. Yes.
Okay. Ari, I see you had your hand up. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I wasn't very fleshed out, but I'm not actually an English major. I'm a political science major.
What you doing
And,
here? No, just kidding. Just
Well,
kidding.
I mean, I've noticed that political science and English are very related to each other. There's a lot of writing. I'm in a Dr. James class, and I've kind of realized that. So I guess I asked the panel members, like, are there opportunities out there that include both like political science and writing? Because oftentimes I feel like sometimes I don't want to get involved in all the politics and just want to be on the back end and participate on the writing or the data entry. And yeah, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Thanks, Ari. And panelists, thoughts?
Thinking of Aetna and CVS in particular, being an insurance company, we do have a lot to do with legislation regarding our plan benefits and coverage. I believe ACA just had something come up this year, but there's definitely opportunities for legal work to be done on the corporate side. Also, I am familiar of somebody I knew who was an intern with in downtown Hartford, the legislative responding to inquiries about particular laws. So they might write a little bit about an interpretation of a law. So there are definitely opportunities out there.
Oh, and Kelly, I see that you put in the chat a link to some information about internship opportunities at CVS Health. So thank you for that information.
Yes.
And audience members, please be sure to see that if you're looking for internship opportunities. So we have about 6 minutes left. Any other questions from the audience? Okay, so if not, I'd just like to ask you all, where do you see yourselves going next? I mean, you've had, an interesting career path so far. It's kind of that bad interview question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? But I'm interested to find out, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And let's start with Jessica this time.
Sure. So I just interviewed and I just had to answer that question. And for me, I've been trying to, because I'm still like, I don't know, I'm not a college student anymore, but I'm still at like what I consider to be the start of my career. So I've been taking opportunities as they've come my way and trying to, and this is something I really advise of you to do, is to focus on your skill set and not just like the label on like your major. So I would say don't just sit and Google like career paths for English majors. Go based off what you know you're good at and where your skills lie. So for me, within 5 years, I know that I'm good at process improvement. So maybe a project management role is something that I would shoot for. But I also know that I've become really interested in IT and learning more about that. So I'm also looking into taking some coding classes and possibly doing a coding boot camp. Um, so I guess it depends on where I'm going to take my career in the next 5 years, but I would just, really advise you not to kind of think about this rigid box of an English major means I need to, like we had said, means I need to be a teacher or a writer or this, that, or the other. Think about the things you're good at and what you've learned through your major. So
Great, thank you. Marcia, what are you looking forward to? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I had trouble with this one. Um, so for me, I'm like, the sky's the limit. Like, I keep my door open to recruiters. For those of you that are familiar with LinkedIn, they have the option for you to put actively seeking employment, casually seeking employment, not seeking employment. Mine is always on actively seeking employment. Am I necessarily actively seeking employment? No, but I am actively open to opportunities to see where it'll take me. If it sounds good, chances are I'm going for it. Honestly, in the interest of full disclosure, if it sounds good, I'm going to jump in it head first, and we'll figure out the gritty details later. I think that because of that, I've had so much multidimensional experience. Like, I'm kind of dabbled a little bit into everything. So a jack of all trades, a master of none. And I feel like I'm going to continue to move that in that direction until something tells me to stop. Don't know what that something is, but we shall find out. Not sure which door I'm going to take at this moment. Right now, I'm really still learning the operational side of a bank. That's all very new to me. My manager just recently, he's the director of operations. He just recently resigned. So I'll be taking over some new responsibilities over the next couple of months. So I'm looking forward to that. So for now, I'm probably going to stick and stay. But we'll see. Follow me on LinkedIn to find out.
I will. And Kelly, where do you see yourself going?
If you asked me a year ago, I probably would have told you sales, just because I felt that I worked with the sales team so much that I just admired them because they know so much about our programs and having that direct relationship with our customers. But this year, I'm leaning more towards having a hands-on role with organizational strategies. So for example, identifying a customer market with needs to be met and helping my employers stand out from the competition. And I believe that this perspective is really influenced by my understanding of recent initiatives by my employer and also the Eastern's MSOM program. If you haven't heard about it, please check it out. It's amazing. So yeah, that's what I'm interested in right now.
Okay, just to make clear, the MSOM is the Masters in Organizational Management, right?
Yes, yes.
Great, good plug for them. All right, so our time is basically up, but I want to again thank all three of you for your time and reiterate to the students, you heard LinkedIn come up many, many times, and it's never too early to get your profile up on LinkedIn. And when you do, please be sure to like the Eastern Connecticut State University English Department page and be sure to connect with me as one of your connections and the other faculty at Eastern. And that will help us keep in touch with you, and hopefully someday when you're involved in an interesting and successful career like Kelly and Jessica and Marcia, you'll come back. We'll be able to find you, and we'll know that you're having this interesting career from following you on LinkedIn, and we'll be able to find you and have you come and speak to some of our students and share your experience. So thank you all, the audience, for being here, and thank you again, Kelly, Jessica, and Marcia. It was great. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I think you shared a lot of great information with our students.
Thank you so much, y'all. It was fun.
Good.
thank you.
Take care and have a good night.
Bye,
Thank you.
guys.